Jenny, you're now elected. Where do you live? Elected.
Good morning. Thank you for signing in, Director Beckett. You just made quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm having trouble with my video. That's why I was in and out, and I still seem to be having trouble with it. I apologize.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so good morning, everyone, on this beautiful sunshiny day. Happy to be here, though. And I was just saying, I already worked a shift at McDonald's for my happy days, and I have a much better appreciation of how hard our fast food workers work, so we can really appreciate them. So I'd like to call this meeting to order on Wednesday, May the 8th, 2024 at 10:01. I would like to acknowledge that we're conducting this meeting on the unceded traditional territories of the Shuswap and Huipachesset First Nations, and we are grateful for their opportunity to do so. We also have directors calling in from other territories, and I'd like to also acknowledge those nations and express our gratitude and our respect. Unfortunately, Chair Jack is not able to be here with us today, but he may be zooming in later on this afternoon if he has an opportunity to do so. So I'll be chairing all our meetings today. So just a notice to attendees and delegates that this is being recorded and live streamed to YouTube on the Regional District website. And if anyone is watching from home and if you have questions or comments, you can send them in to responses@acrd.ec.ca. So we'll go around the room and do introductions. My name is Debbie Haggard, and I am the Vice Chair of the Regional Board, and I am the City Appointed Representative to the ACRD. So we'll go around the room and we'll start with Cynthia.
Good morning, Cynthia Dick, General Manager of Administrative Services.
Oh, good morning. Fama Penny Cote. I am the Electoral Area Director for Sprout Lake from the ACRD. Thanks.
Good morning, I'm Mike Sparrow, Electoral Director for Cherry Creek.
Good morning, Mariah Coots for Chuckles Tribe Government. Thank you.
Morning, Kirsten Johnson for the Tokwat Nation.
Good morning, Daniel Sion, the CAO for the ACRD.
Good morning, Jenny Brenn, General Manager of Community Services.
Michael, did you want to introduce yourself? Okay, perfect. Okay, Director Roth.
Good morning, Susan Roth. I represent the best interests of the people in Beaver Creek.
Director Boyko. Director Boyko, do you want to introduce yourself? Can you hear? Okay, we'll move on, and if you want, if you can jump in later, if it starts to happen to work, you can use yourself later. Director Beckett, we can see your happy, smiley face now.
And it is indeed happy, and it is indeed smiling because A, I'm in beautiful Banfield, and B, the weather is unbelievable for the next few days. So, hi, Bob Beckett, Director, Area A.
Director McEwen.
Good morning. It's a beautiful day in Ucluelet as well. Marilyn McEwen, Mayor of Ucluelet.
Director Mastrangelo.
Good morning, Lavana Mastrangelo, representing Ucluelet First Nation and chiming in from Campbell River, also known as the Wewaykum and Wewakai Traditional Territory.
Thank you. Director Siga.
Thank you. Veda Siga, Director for Area C, Long Beach.
Thank you, everyone. Next, we have approved the agenda. Is there any additions from directors? Is there any additions from the corporate officer?
No additions.
Thank you. Can we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Moved by Director Coos, second by Director Johnson. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Any declarations or conflict of interest? Seeing none, we have the minutes from the Committee of the Whole meeting on March the 6th, 2024. Is there any errors or omissions? Could I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting held on March the 6th, 2024 be adopted? Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Johnson. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. So no petitions or delegations or presentations, no correspondence, no requests for decisions. We're going to jump right into reports. And we have Michael McGregor with us, who's going to be doing a report on Parks and Trail signage strategy. Please go ahead, Michael.
Through the chair. Hi, everyone. My name's Michael McGregor. I'm the Lands and Resources Coordinator with the ACRD. And part of my role here is to oversee the parks and trail services for the ACRD. Today, I have the next two reports. The first one I'm going to go into is our signage strategy. Now, this was a project that was identified first, to my knowledge, in the Parks and Trails Strategic Plan about 8 years ago. And, it's also been identified in many municipal insurance association inspections that we've had throughout the years. And each of our park management plans kind of identifies more wayfinding, better signage within our parks. So to my knowledge, we've never had a overarching ACRD signage strategy or design, and that's resulted in most of our park services and sometimes different parks within services having their own, kind of flair or style to them, addressing kind of an urgent need that's seen at the time and installed either by the ACRD or by volunteers or sometimes just by, the community in general. So first off, I'm going to go through some of our existing signs in different parks. There we go. So this, sorry. So first off, Log Train Trail. We have a good mix here of, some project signage, some wayfinding, interpretive signage that was done by some community groups. And also the ACRD kind of spearheaded the kilometer marking signs that you can see there, helped by the Backcountry Horseman Society. But there's no real overarching theme, not a lot of ACRD branding involved here.
Let's do an audio test. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Next is the Alberni Inlet Trail. So there was a recent project done in coordination with the ACRD for some interpretive signage there. And I want to highlight that, this signage strategy, it's not to remove signs that's been installed, that's doing its job, that's telling the story that's intended to. So these interpretive signs on Alberni Inlet Trail, they look great, but we also want to supplement them as well. So the intention isn't to pull down signs that aren't included. That don't necessarily fit the signage strategy. If they're up and they're doing their job, we want to keep them up, and we don't want to replace work that's already effective. So we want to supplement it with signs that we feel are needed. One of the complaints we get on the Alberni Inlet Trail is the wayfinding signage. It braids a bunch, people get off the track, and we get people lost there fairly often. This one's Sprout Lake Community Parks. So a mix of regulatory signage and some identification signage. I want to highlight that, we want to kind of amalgamate information in one central spot as people kind of walk into a park. What we want to avoid is, you have a sign on a tree on your left and a sign on a tree further on your right saying different things. We want to get all the good information in one location, have it say what it needs to say, let the trees do their job, and put it on a post. Beaver Creek and Cherry Creek Parks. Beaver Creek has some great artistic signage at Evergreen Park and Nordstrom Park. So again, to reiterate, we're not going to pull down signs that are great and doing their job. We might look at refurbishing or updating that to keep that history and keep the culture in there because it's been forever or been around for a long time. and then also supplement it with, good information and wayfinding signage. And this is Banfield Community Park. So the Parks Commission in Banfield has done some recent work on new signage there that looks fantastic. And, some identification signage, some, routed wayfinding signage. And, we want to support that. And, this is just the guideline, the signage strategy, because some of this signage doesn't necessarily fit that strategy. But if Banfield feels like they want to keep their own design or flair, we want to work with them, or we'll work with the Parks Commission there to make sure that we have the appropriate information included. We can keep the design that the community likes and feels represents them the best, and make sure that our parks have good signage that represents everybody. So that's just the overview of our signage there, and I want to go into a few of the elements of the signage strategy now. So Heather Thompson, in the last couple of years, she had done a branding design document. So that kind of supports this document as well. We're going to be incorporating a lot of those colors and those elements from Heather Thompson's document in this and on our signage. One of the common themes that you saw in the previous post was, if a park user is in one of our parks, they likely or don't realize that it's an ACRD park. If there's an incident or if there's infrastructure that's broken, if they don't know who to call, who to inform. And because our inspection and maintenance policy, a lot of the time it's based off of complaints, we feel that, providing that information so people are aware of who to tell if something needs addressing, we're going to do a better job with keeping our parks infrastructure well maintained. So it also lists a signage category and hierarchy. I'll just go down. So identification is intended to tell people what the park name is, who owns and maintains it. Information signage is mixed with kind of a regulatory signage as well, to what the proper etiquette is, what the expectations are, what the approved users are. Direction and wayfinding signage is just helping people get to go where they need to go, so they understand where they are, don't get lost, improve safety. And then interpretive signage is when we want to tell a story about something. So we can either, include information about, say, an endangered frog that's in the park, or, maybe we have some First Nations content that we want to work together with the nation on that we'd like to tell a story with. So, and then it just kind of identifies what the different styles might be, what infrastructure might supports it, what size, and what's the important information to include. But each sign, needs its own, design and context in the place that it's in. So each sign's looked at individually and, designed to tell its own story. It also has some information that we can hand off to contractors, installers, people that are building the signs, volunteers, parks commissions. And that just makes sure that we're using materials and installing it so that we have low maintenance and the signs are long lasting.
Excuse me, Michael. Director Boyko has his hand up. May I interrupt and ask? Thank you. Director Boyko, did you have a question?
I just put my hand up. I got a question when he's done. I'll wait.
Thank you. Sorry for the interruption, Michael. Go ahead, please.
Okay. And you may have noticed that this was done in partnership with the city of Port Alberni. This was identified as a regional district project a number of years ago in our signage strategy. But speaking with staff over at the city of Port Alberni, they also had a need, so it was identified as an opportunity to partner, save funds. It's just a strategy, so the styles would be similar, but the designs for each sign itself would be different. And it was a good opportunity to work together, have a regional style for our park signage, since we share a lot of the same users too. So, and I'd like to go into a little bit further on the inclusion of First Nations language and cultural content there. Obviously, the ACRD is quite a bit bigger than the city of Port Alberni, and we have obligations and relationships with more nations than they do. So this got us to the point that we decided to split at that point and say we need to work on our First Nations processes and relationships separately. So we tried a few different strategies to develop processes and procedures for that. But we found that working from the beginning, based on some common principles, was the best way to go about it. So we said that all individual signs are to be completed in partnership with the nations whose territories that the signs are placed upon. And this is based on open dialogue from the beginning of concept and design. And each sign requires the review and approval of the nation. So the goal is to build a portfolio of approved signage and then build off some successes. So we did start this with Dixon Park out at Sprout Lake, was our first kind of test case. Had a number of conversations with CSHOT and Hubschesset, and a few different designs for a territory recognition for a information sign at the park. And after a few months and trying different conversations and designs, we found we couldn't really get to a position that everyone was satisfied on, and we weren't too sure which direction to go at that point. And then last year, while this was happening as well, we had the Sprout Lake Marine Patrol decide to update their map brochure. So change, and we had a really good team of Marine Patrollers last year, and they were keen on including First Nations content in this brochure. And so we re-engaged with CSHOT and Hubschesset on this map brochure. They were also referred us to, and my apologies about the pronunciation of this, but Uathuk, which is the Nuu-chah-nulth Fisheries group. And there was a lot of excitement and involvement from all parties on this. We were able to identify place names, ecological names such as fish species, some history like the petroglyphs on the lake from both nations, and include a lot of that content in this brochure. We also worked with both nations for them to provide a welcome message, which is shown on the screen here. And it was a really big success. It went well. It did take quite a bit of effort to get to a point that everybody was happy with. And this is the first year that map brochure is going to be available for everyone for the public and everyone to be provided this when the Marine Patrol starts this year. And then after we settled on this and everyone was very satisfied, I think it's a great brochure. And if you haven't taken a look yet, you should grab some off the pamphlet holder in the front lobby here and take a review. But we circled back and talked more about the Dixon Park information signage and the territory recognition in there. And building off the success from the map brochure, we were able to find wording and design that satisfied everyone. And so this is just one example of the sign. The first one that we built success on, we were able to use the same one for Cougar Smith Park and the design for that, which is upcoming. This Dixon Park sign will be installed in the next couple weeks. So I think, this is just helping create that portfolio. We're going to build on successes. We're going to engage for each sign, create that portfolio, work with many different nations, and hopefully we improve this content throughout our region. And thank you. Happy to answer any questions on this.
Thank you, Michael. That was great. And I was just want to let you know how excited I was that there's a signage strategy. There's going to be consistency and branding and messaging. That's fantastic. So thank you for getting me excited. That was fun. Director Boyko, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. I think you answered a bit of my question there when you talked about working with the city of Port Alberni. So every sign is going to have both logos. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So every sign is going to have the logos of the ACRD and city of Port Alberni. Is it always going to have city of Port Alberni and then ACRD secondly, or how's that going to work when it's on ACRD land for the trails? Thanks.
So yeah, both logos won't be included on every sign. If it's in an ACRD only park, it'll only have the ACRD logo on it, and same for the city. Our logo won't be on their parks. It was just kind of show kind of placement of logos, and they didn't want to only use one at that time. So yeah, apologies that wasn't clear in there.
Nope, I thank you, and I like the signs. They're nice and simple, good colors, and when we start putting them on places like Log Train Trail, I mean, simple mile markers, they already exist out there, but some of them are hard to see and some of them are getting old. Having some consistency would be good. And as long as we don't sprinkle them and spend thousands and thousands of dollars on signs all over the place, I fully support what's going on. Thank you.
And I think it's fantastic that you're working with the city on this project as well. I think there's much more opportunities for these kinds of projects to work together. Director Cote, then Director Sparrow.
Thank you. Question through the chair. Actually two questions. Are we working with the West Coast as well? Because there's parts in the regional, like the multi-use trail on the West Coast. So would we be working with Tofino Ucluelet at that point? Would this be used on all regional parks for signage? One last question. I see that Faber Park has now been renamed. So what process have we gone through to do that? Because that's something new. Thank you.
So yeah, this will be in all ACRD parks, including regional parks and the multi-use path as well. We'll just have discussions with the district of Ucluelet about the transition between the Ucluelet pathway to the ACRD pathway. But they have their own signage standard too. So we have discussions with their staff regarding how that pathway will be maintained, and they'd likely be doing the install since they do the maintenance on there too. So more collaboration with the district of Ucluelet. And then the discussion about Dixon Park and Faber Park, it's a discussion that we've had, or Joe and I and a couple members of the Parks Commission, because it did seem like there was two separate names. There was Dixon Park, it looks like originally it turned into Faber Park on Dixon Drive at some point in some signage. And then the files that we had identified that the original name was Dixon Park. So Joe Lamry, the chair of the Parks Commission, and I discussed and decided that go with the original name, Dixon Park, as opposed to Faber Park on Dixon Drive, which was represented sometimes.
Thank you. Follow up. So I'm just wondering what the process for that is for changing the name, because the signage was Faber Park. So will people be confused then? Should we not be advertising or putting it out there for community support to be changing the name now at this point? Thank you.
My understanding is that it's always had the two names and originally Dixon. So, yep, I think, yep, going forward and communicating with the public that, the Dixon Park is the original name and the name that we're going forward with is a good idea. And we'll hoop leather in or header in, sorry, and we'll get the word out to the community.
Thank you, Director Sparrow.
Well, thank you for that. I like to see when you said you want to keep some of the original signs that people made up because, with their own routers and that, because that gives them a connection to it. I have met people that tell me which signs are their sign they put up. So that's good. We're going to keep those up. My second one is going to be a little weird and different, but that's okay. Have you ever thought of putting Braille on some standard way signs like the Horn Lake Trail sign or something and the waypoint sign? Not all of them, just a couple of them, because that actually is quite universal language. And when you get out there, people will go for the sights, the sounds, and the smells.
Yeah, Braille isn't included in this signage guideline, but we have recently had that accessibility committee meeting, and Braille was one of the key topics that was discussed in that. So I think as we develop signs, if there's a pilot or something that we can include that on, I think that's a great idea, and we'll explore that more and maybe work with the accessibility committee to identify which locations might be best for that.
And one more little thing, I noticed the picture of your signs, I want to take them, but I've seen a few already been vandalized. So we need to get on and fix them up because people are taking liberties they shouldn't take.
Yeah, I think it's just part of, being a government is some people feel they need to vandalize our parks. So, repairing the vandalism is the quickest way to do it, and making sure that it doesn't stay for a long time. And so if there's graffiti or spray paint, we want to get out there quickly, and that kind of helps out with people informing us that they've seen this vandalism and we are able to make those repairs. So.
Thank you. Is there any more questions about the signage strategy? Go ahead, Director Cote.
It's not a question through the chair. I just wanted to say thank you for the mapping project with going through with the Marine Patrol. I think that's most excellent, great use of our students and great use of updating that map and working with First Nations. So thank you. You did a great job.
Thank you, Director Mastrangelo.
Yeah, just a quick kind of observation in other signage that sometimes when there's graffiti, I've seen them put up a piece of kind of plexiglass or just acrylic, something clear. So then it's easy for them to clean it off or buff it off and just protects like the main image. But I didn't catch that if that was in the design.
I don't think we did any graffiti protection in the design. In the past for high value signs, I have used, there's it's kind of like a wax paint that makes graffiti really easy to clean off with just open water. So it's kind of a layer that you can apply to there, and it's pretty cost effective too. So I think at high value signs, that's something we'd look at.
Maybe where you guys hadn't done.
Director Siga?
Which beach? Kachina Beach?
Yes. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry about that. I have sometimes my mute button doesn't work properly, but I have sort of the same ideas about the managing the graffiti. The quick removal has been shown to be one of the best ways. There's also including young people and
Heading to Pachina? Sure.
Excuse me, Rebecca, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, so what I was wondering is if our parks could connect with school programs. So teaching respect of the parks and the public areas to the youth, and also the restorative justice program, so that there's a commitment to public spaces. Thank you.
Any comments, Michael?
Yeah, thanks. I think that's a great comment. And, a lot of our park plans identify kind of a public education element to have, the etiquette standards, implied. So that's something we're working on for the Log Train Trail. And I think will be expanded once we see that program rolled out there.
Terrific. Any final questions or comments? Seeing none, Michael, can you move on to the 2023 Annual Park Services Report? Sorry, Director Cote.
Oh, sorry. One last question. When would these signage start rolling out?
The first sign should be installed at Dixon Park and Cooter Smith over the next month. And then we were working on some designs for Evergreen Park and the Log Train Trail at the moment. And then also the multi-use path and Grappler Wharf in Banfield as well. And that's just the first kind of phase of the rollout. So first one's at Sprout Lake within the next month, and then following that throughout the summer, the rest.
For things like the Log Train Trail, where it's a really lineal trail, are you using public input as to where signage should be, or getting some comments from the public as to where people get lost? I guess. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. So we do have the Regional Parks working group, public working group starting up this year, and that's going to be a major role of theirs. I have been in contact with, the Backcountry Horsemen and the Alberni Outdoor Club on a number of these initiatives too, because they're kind of the de facto public groups that help maintain at the moment. We're hoping to rope in more of the off-road vehicle crowd too to help us provide input.
Director Boyko, did you find final question or comment?
Yes, just something about what was just said there about the Regional Parks Public Working Group. Have we voted that this thing will exist? And secondly, yes, I think you definitely should have a good portion of the off-road vehicle people involved, because they are the ones doing most of the maintenance on the Log Train Trail right now as it is. And they've been out there in the past week or two cutting down trees, because I've been on there myself. Secondly, are we getting these signs and all the work done made locally, or were we sending that out of the valley for the work to be done? Because I'm pretty sure we should try and keep as much revenue in the valley as we can. Thank you.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about the first question there. The Parks and Trails Regional Parks Working Group has been approved in I think it was a PIC this year. And so the goal is to, we're still speaking with the province about, adjusting that lease agreement. And we are just finishing the recruitment for the Banfield Parks Commission process. So we'll do a similar process for developing the Regional Parks Working Group. It should be started, in the second quarter or second or third quarter here. Sorry, and then the next question was that locally made signs. Yeah. So the majority of our signs are locally made. We have a couple signage designers and makers in the valley. And also, I don't think Banfield has any. I looked into that, but they've used a ukulele maker in the past. So yeah, we will do that locally. There are, for the big kind of value ones, we do need to go out for a published tender if a sign is over, $10,000. So, and then we will use our regular procurement policy to award that sign. But below $10,000, we can do with local quotes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I hope there won't be too many signs over $10,000. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Director Roth.
Yeah, I really like the work that you're doing, Michael. I would like a sign for Beaver Creek. We used to have one when it was an improvement district, so people knew when they were entering the area. And there's actually a really good location for one. Can we work on something like that for, or maybe it's not something that's within your purview, but can we put that on next year's budget maybe?
Daniel?
You quite correctly identified it's not in this year's budget, but we can certainly add it to the discussion for 2025.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, please go ahead on your annual report.
Okay, for the chair, so this next report is on the Parks Annual Report. This is the third year that we've done this report, and its intention is just an overview of the past year for park services, some of the mission statements, goals that the parks try to achieve, and then how we're tracking, how well we're doing in achieving those goals. And then also a big piece of that is the projects that were completed in the past year, the projects that we have on our list for this year. And, in future years that 2025 and beyond. So we'll start with, identifying that there's regional parks and community parks, and they have some different definitions. So the ACRD currently owns and or operates 6 regional parks and 27 community parks. Regional parks focus is on meeting the outdoor recreation needs of the region, contain regionally unique environmental features, as well as contribute to attracting tourism as a regional destination. While community parks, their focus is providing the local area outdoor recreation opportunities and promote a sense of community. They've been designed to serve nearby residents and are funded by the individual electoral areas in which they're located. Okay. So this mission statement was from the Parks and Trails strategic plan done a few years or many years ago now. It's the ACRD will work with all citizens to be good stewards of our environment and to provide safe and welcoming opportunities to play, learn, contemplate, and build community. And then there's 5 operational goals to achieve that mission statement. The first one is positive impact, and I'll go to each of these in the future, so I won't read all the description. Second one, operations levels of service. Third is acquisition. Fourth is infrastructure. And 5th is community engagement. So the last 2 years, we've collected some survey data when we're out doing public engagement. In 2022, that was the Log Train Trail Management Plan. And in 2023, it was the Sprout Lake Active Transportation Plan. That's when we have a survey based on that plan. We also add, I think it was 9 or 10 additional questions. And those questions have remained the same through the same survey. And it's just to get an idea about these general questions, and we track any changes because I think that those 2 plans were different cross sections of the population, so we didn't probably have too much overlap. We did see most of the same responses, and I've highlighted a few of those questions here in this presentation and within the plan or the annual report itself. And it's also, all the questions are included as an appendix in the report if you want to look further. So then we also have begun doing trail counter data collection. 2023 was the first full year that we've collected that data. 2022 we did a partial year, and the more years and more data we have, the better we'll be able to look at trends for the use of different parks and trails throughout the region. We do have two different types of counters. Our first one is an infrared beam counter. So these are not cameras. It's just an infrared beam that shoots across the trail. And when people walk by, it just ticks a counter box. And I'd say that they're not a 100% accurate statement or accurate count. It gives us a good indication. For example, if two people are walking side by side on a trail, they're going to be counted as one. But also if a deer or somebody else walks on a trail, they're going to be counted as well. So our other type of counter is a electromagnetic counter, and it counts like off-road vehicles, so that when an off-road vehicle drives past, the electromagnetic sensor counts that. But if a person were to walk past, it wouldn't count it. So this is useful, for example, on Log Train Trail when we have both counters in the same location. The infrared counter is going to count everything. Electromagnetic will only count the off-road vehicles, and then we can figure out what the percentage of use for those vehicles are. So maybe go back up. Yeah, I just want to emphasize that these data points are just indicators. I wouldn't say that they're the whole picture. I'd use them as a piece of the puzzle to have some ideas about trends in trail use instead of just firmly saying that this leads to that. So these are the same graphs that were included in last year's annual report, and the graph on your left is color coordinated by the service area, and those are the trails that the counters were located at this last year. In brackets on the right, when we had enough data from 2022, that's the percent change. On the parks that didn't have enough data, we didn't include the percent change. So hopefully in future years, while we collect more data, we can get more trends and more firm information from these counters. Some conclusions that we've drawn from that is, Maplehurst Park has been our most overwhelmingly used trail for 2 years in a row now. And, the only decrease we saw was on Log Train Trail, Desmond Road. I don't know, why that is. It could be a weather impact. It could be a counter impact. As we collect more data, we'll get better information about, and make some more inferences about what's causing, trends to go up or down. But the rest of the parks that we did see an increase in use, such as, Lakeshore Trail Landing in 2022, that was a new trail. So I think it hadn't been discovered yet, and it was installed in the fall. So all those counts were from the last 3 months of the year. And then last year, people discovered the trail. We saw, an almost 200% increase in its use. So, yeah.
Sorry, thank you. Through the chair, I just wondered why Cougar Smith wasn't tracked at all.
So Cougar Smith has a counter now, but these are generally used on linear trails. So Cougar Smith, the way that it's got an outside track trail that has a counter, but we didn't have enough data on it for now. But yeah, so it will be included next year, but it'll be just the trail around and not like by a parking lot, because it's just too hard to collect good data on, because there's no one common entrance or exit in that location. So,
Dr. McEwen, you had a question? Dr. McEwen, did you have a question? There you go.
Yes, sorry, I couldn't find the unmute button. Just wondering if the Upcheeks Tashi Trail will have a counter at some point. That's the path through from the junction through the park.
Yeah, it will have a counter. And it'll be interesting to see if it rivals Maplehurst for our most used trail. I've spoken with Parks Canada and they use the same counters and the same information software that we have. So it'll be interesting to compare different spots upon the trail too, provided Parks Canada is willing to give us the data.
Great, thanks.
So for the graph on the right, monthly visits, all locations, I tried to include the 2020 data to compare, but because it was only a partial year, it didn't represent well. I think in future years we'll have more data and be able to compare years there as well. But it generally identifies, the difference between winter and summer. Those are all locations. I've noticed that Sprout Lake parks in particular, like Lakeshore Trail, Dixon Park, huge counts in the summer. They'd be higher than Maplehurst Park, but then in the winter, the counts get quite a bit lower. So that's very impacting the average there. While parks like Alberni Inlet Trail, Maplehurst Park, they seem to be, definitely bigger in the summer, but you don't see the big drastic change that Sprout Lake sees sometimes. So, so the first goal. Oh,
Sorry. So maybe we could have more data then provided so that we can see where these spikes are and what's actually happening, because it's not really useful to me to see the data that's here without that. Great, thank you.
Yeah, I'd say that if there's further questions or if you want to go down a rabbit hole with me about our trail counter data, happy to show you and see the software that we use too. So, so our first identified goal is positive impact. And that's to improve the quality of life, promote healthy lifestyles, contribute to the economic and environmental well-being of the community and region. In the annual report, we identify, 3 categories of what parks provide, and that's health and environmental benefits, economic value, and social importance. One of the questions from the survey collected at the Sprout Lake Active Transportation Plan was to prioritize what you value most about ACRD parks and trails. This is a ranked question, so you'd rank your most valued as 1, so lower score is preferred. And this is the same response that we got back from the Log Train Trail question 2 years ago. So the top ranked value is a place for outdoor recreation by quite a bit, and then followed by protection of the environment, a place for community building and public gathering, and in a distant 4th place was attracting tourism and improving the economy. Next goal is operations and service levels. Park and trail user experience meets the needs and expectations of the community / park shed. These 3 questions are from our survey for the Sprout Lake Active Transportation Plan. So how satisfied are you with the condition of ACRD parks and trails infrastructure? Had a very similar response to how satisfied are you with your experience when utilizing ACRD parks and trails. Similar questions, but asking 2 different things. The majority of people said satisfied or neutral. A few more people were dissatisfied with the infrastructure than they were with their experience using parks and trails. I'd say that the change from the Log Train Trail survey 2 years ago is there was more neutral and less very satisfied responses on this survey. So as we ask these questions over and over, we'll see if that trend continues or if we get other responses. And the third question is, assuming the level of service is directly correlated to the tax rate, which statement do you support? Overwhelmingly, 54% said I support maintaining the existing park service and maintaining a stable tax rate. Second place was at 28.3%, I think it is. I support the expansion of ACRD park services and an increase in the tax rate. And then in third place at 17.7%, I support service cuts to the ACRD park services and decreasing the tax rate. Next goal is acquisition. So that's represent and protect an array of regionally significant natural and cultural areas. This is a drone shot of the new West Coast multi-use path that was built last year. One of the questions from the survey was, does the ACRD own and operate an appropriate number of parks and trails? This one, the overwhelming response was the ACRD should add more parks and trails. I'll just check out the number. And that was 47.3% said add. The next response was the ACRD has a good number of parks and trails, 36.4% said maintain. Surprisingly, we had 0 responses saying that we should have fewer parks and trails, but we did get 7.3% saying that we should not own or operate any parks and trails. So this is obviously a bit of a discrepancy from the last slide where, you know, overwhelmingly people wanted stable service and maintain the tax rate. But this one, the majority of people want more parks and trails. So that's part of the communications that we have with the public is, you know, we can't add infrastructure and parks without supporting them with operations and maintenance as well. So next goal is infrastructure. Build and maintain infrastructure to ensure safety and environmental sustainability. A few years ago, the ACRD completed the Parks and Trails Asset Management Plan. This graph is from that plan, and it shows the value of infrastructure in each park service. Regional parks is the majority of value, but is also the largest service. Second, Sprout Lake Community Parks, followed by Banfield Community Parks, and then the South Long Beach Multi-Use Purpose Path, and Beaver Creek and Cherry Creek Community Parks. So we have a project this year to perform some condition assessments and improve our asset register for parks infrastructure. That's going to be, if you look to the wheel on the right, will be in the assess category. We're always doing some form of asset management, whether we're doing the plan, doing the implementation, or the assessing. So once we perform that project, you know, these numbers will be, you know, more accurate. You know, as infrastructure ages, the numbers change, and as we add new infrastructure, they change as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this infrastructure project is going to impact our asset management planning process. And last goal is community engagement. So that's engage the community to provide an opportunity for full participation to guide the development of the parks and trails, build community, volunteerism, and increase awareness. We do that through our parks commissions. You know, we have the new regional parks working group. The Banfield Parks Commission just had some new members put in, and Sprout Lake Community Parks has the Sprout Lake Park Service or Parks Commission, sorry, and they provide great value for the community. We also do that through local community groups whose, you know, sole purpose isn't to work on ACRD parks, but they have other functions as well, like the Backcountry Horseman Society, the Alberni Valley Outdoor Club, I think they're called, and then many other informal community groups as well. So our main form of, you know, engaging with the community and getting feedback on directions of parks and trails have been through park management plans. Recently, we reestablished, you know, management priorities and goals for certain parks. And then we also sometimes have working groups, like in the picture here, where we replaced an aging playground in Banfield last year and had, you know, great community support, saved, you know, thousands of dollars on installation by doing a community build. So, and provide a great playground for the community for years, decades to come. So this is our data graph that we update every year. There's a lot of information in here, and a lot of it's very contextual. So I won't dive into any of these numbers specifically right now, but if you see anything that you want more context on or want to discuss further, please feel free to contact me and we can have a further discussion. And then we also have our maintained project list. So projects completed in 2023, ongoing and new projects for 2024, and then future or potential projects. Those are, some of them are in financial plans, some of them are in plans, some of them have just been discussed at the community or, you know, Parks Commission level too. So none of them have been like fully funded, but you know, they'll be one of the pieces that may include PICs in the future or other you know, initiatives coming from Parks Commissions or community members. I'll just pull out one project from each group to give a little bit more information on. The development of Parks Commission procedures and guidelines. Like I said, we're going to have a new commission or working group start this year. And also we have new members in the Banfield Parks Commission. So we want to ensure that, you know, we have our commission procedures and guidelines communicated well. so that these volunteers are dedicating their time appropriately and feel like that it's an effective use of their time. Regional parks, I have to highlight the two big multi-year projects that we were able to complete last year, Log Train Trail Management Plan and the West Coast Multi-Use Path. Those are both complete. The only outstanding item is we will have a ribbon cutting for the West Coast Multi-Use Path in June this year, which if you haven't seen an invite already, it will be back when Heather is back from vacation. So. Banfield Community Parks, I already identified the playground replacement. So let's talk about the West Park revitalization. That was a community-led project. We have a fantastic new picnic covered shelter area, and there's been weddings there already, yoga classes, events. It's a great community infrastructure. And, you know, the West Park is becoming, you know, a node in that area too. So if you're ever in Banfield on the West Park or West Side, I encourage everybody to take a look. Beaver Creek Community Parks. So we've been in discussions with the Backcountry Horseman Group and some of the users of the Evergreen Riding Ring. And we just want to formalize, or not, maybe not formalize, but you know, ensure that everybody's aware of their roles and responsibilities when it comes to the maintenance and the etiquette for using that riding ring, because there's been a bit of confusion in the last couple of years. Cherry Creek Community Parks. We'll go with the Maplehurst Cherry Creek Access Project. We have some hurdles for this to get over, but it'll be interesting to really get that project running in 2024. And it's going to be, you know, a big boost for the Cherry Creek community once complete. So we'll be hearing more about that at the board level in the coming months, I assume. And Sprout Lake Community Parks. We've been working on the Sprout Lake Active Transportation Plan. There's an open house next week at the Sprout Lake Community Hall, and that plan will be brought before the board shortly as well. And that's the annual report for 2023. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for all that, for that report. I didn't really appreciate our trail system until COVID hit, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that was very thankful that we have these beautiful trails to walk on and get out of the house and our mental and well-being during COVID. So thank you for that. We have Director Siga, then Director Boyko, then Director Roth. Go ahead, Director Siga.
Thank you very much for that. It was an excellent presentation and overview, and it really helped me understand all of the parks in the whole ACRD, which was a really nice, sort of puts into perspective how much work there is in parks. And I was wondering, is there a way like of capturing, like for the active transportation, like I know that I will ride my bike in the summer to town rather than drive my car, so that can we capture that in terms of supporting our climate change action, just in terms of numbers, like from Millstream to town, kind of. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that idea. I'll talk to Amy, or I forget her actual title, but yeah, Amy Needham, and yeah, I think that's a great tracking item to look into and see if we can get some better data on that.
Thank you, Director Boyko.
Thank you, Chair. I got 3 quick questions. How many people did the survey? First question.
The Sprout Lake Transportation Survey, I think, reached 135 people or so.
What about the one that you referenced for the annual report on expanding services, that kind of thing?
Yeah, those questions were included in that survey. So, and I think the Log Train Trail survey was similar to that number too in 2022.
So basically 100 people out of the 10,000 people, plus or minus, in the ACRD portion of the Alberni Valley, 8,000. So I caution directors to make decisions based on expanding parks out of a very low percentage of people going on there. Same thing as what we did with the pool. The survey had 3.6% of the population doing it. So I just caution people making decisions on that. Second question, Maplehurst counter. Where is that counter? Is it at the parking lot that is contentious that all the residents do not want to have expanded? Is that where the counter is, or is it on the trail somewhere else?
So the ACRD doesn't own the section right beside the trail. That's all Crown land and sorry.
Sorry, we all got the same thing there.
So in order for someone to access Maplehurst Park, they have to go through Crown land first because it's an isolated park. So our counter is located within our park on the trail system.
Okay, that's good to hear. Last question. When did Hell Creek wash out? Does anyone know what day that happened or what year?
I remember it.
Don't have the date. It was before my time here. Yeah.
It was before my time moving back beside it. So I live just down below it and I go through it all the time. I know that there's a budget line item in the future plan for $400,000 to build a bridge over this trail. I don't know if we should spend that kind of money to fight Mother Nature. And if climate change, however we want to say that, is a real thing, then why should we build a bridge that's going to get washed out in a couple of years or 10 years or next month? So there's already a good bypass built around it. It actually prevents some larger motorized vehicles from using it. That would be a good thing. That should not be on the trail based on our current potential mixed use facility. But I am not really looking forward to putting that kind of money into something that might get destroyed in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that would be a budget discussion, would it not, Danielle? Yeah, so we can discuss that at budget time. Director Roth and then Director Cote.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if there's, or if we provide any insurance coverage to people that use the riding rings or for the riding ring use in Evergreen Park. And how that works if we do.
So yes, the Evergreen riding ring at Evergreen Park is, an ACRD asset. So it would be under our insurance, and MIA has, inspected the riding ring in the park in years past. I think that was 2022 they did that inspection. It's included under our general liability insurance. I don't think we have specific line item for that riding ring.
So there isn't a society that actually takes care of the riding rings? Is it ACRD, I guess, riding rings? Something I don't understand.
Yeah, so the Backcountry Horseman Club has, unofficially and for the past number of years, maintained it and drugged the ring and done improvements to the fencing and whatnot under, what I'd call a handshake agreement from the best. So I don't know if we don't have a formal agreement with them that stipulates the insurance that they're required to carry. We don't lease it to them or anything. It's a public riding ring, and we have what's called a handshake agreement to maintain it to a standard that we work with them on.
So someone has looked at the risk level and, it just seems odd to me.
Yeah, when MIA did their inspection, there's discussions at the risk level for that riding ring in that facility, and there's a few different options we can go for the future of that riding ring and how it's maintained. This is a first step to just kind of declutter the confusion about roles and responsibilities.
Okay.
Than from us in the Backcountry Horseman.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director Cote.
Thank you. You didn't mention anything about Great Central Lake boat launch. So it would be very interesting to hear how many people are actually using that. The increase going down to the end of Great Central to Della Falls has increased over the years. There's a taxi that takes people down, but there's also opportunities for working with the property owners out at Mahone Properties. And I thought this is in the 2024 budget to be looking at Great Central Lake boat launch to start making those improvements that are needed there and identifying future improvements throughout there. Thanks.
I know that we have the Great Central Lake boat launch in the financial plan. I didn't think it was 2024 budget. It might have been in the past. But I'd have to double check to make sure what year it's slotted in at the moment. And I think the idea is because I know you've expressed that a desire for it to be moved to regional parks in the past. So they get that regional parks working group to review those, proposals and bring that to the board for further discussion before we invest in the infrastructure.
Just to follow up on the work plan item, we have so many priorities, and this isn't on our 2024, and simply because, as you can tell with the annual report, the amount of work that we're trying to do, it's still very much a priority, but just with staff capacity, we were limited, so I think we pushed that to 2025. I have to confirm because it should be listed in the capital plan, but we are doing a lot of work so far, but
This is a very well-used infrastructure. And coming into May, we'll be seeing, so I'd really like to make sure that we're on cue as to how many people are actually using that. If the number goes down, which I doubt, push it back. But right now, it's important to be making those improvements. So for the safety of people, I know that the fire department has put a fire lane right at the side of it. Yeah, there's opportunities that are coming as the Great Central Lake development happens. And I think that we need to be able to work on that as they develop. They've created more housing out there. And I think that this is more of a priority than some of the other initiatives that are on our scope. Thank you.
Do either one of you have any comments or response to that, or?
no, we appreciate the feedback. And again, we have so many competing priorities, but recognizing what you're saying and the importance of that, and we definitely don't want to lose sight of that.
Thank you. Director Sparrow.
Thank you. I have a few questions. One of the things about the infrastructure of Log Train Trail, have you put anything about the Mark Mosier bench? Or do you know where it is? You don't know it, okay. It's in Cherry Creek and it's built there by Mark Mosier and his family. So I'll show you where it is. And it used to be a plaque up there saying Mark Mosier, the fireman, because he was a fireman for the train, not the fireman, do it now. So, but there's a bench up there. It's above Chase's farm. So I'll show you where it is and see if we can put that into the plan and get that back up the line. Because we're gonna put the infrastructure in, then we should put also the rest spots into and the plaquing that goes with it. So that'd be one thing. One other thing, I was going through your ACRD Park Service data tracking. And I was looking through it there with the chart, if you want to go into detail, but when you look on the bottom line, the average annual traffic counter, it says Cherry Creek Parks had 26,000 people last year. Is that about accurate? It should be about 70, it's about right, according to the numbers you had on the screen before. But my problem is when you add all the lines up along the bottom, you end up with 10,000. I'm just wondering how. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's the average traffic per counter. So if we have last year, we had a lot of counters in Sprout Lake because we were working on the active transportation plan. So instead of adding up all the counters and having that number, it's just averaged out per counter. So that number shouldn't be a total. It should be an average. Annual. Yearly.
Any other questions or comments regarding the annual report? Great. Can I get a motion that these reports be received? Moved by Director Johnson, seconded by Director Coots. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Michael and Jenny. That was fantastic. Great information. We appreciate all your hard work. So no late business. A question period. Is there any questions online, Cynthia?
There's no questions in Zoom and no questions received by email.
Thank you. Okay, could I get a motion to close the meeting to the public as per the Community Charter, Section 91A, personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer, employee, or agent of the regional district on another position appointed by the regional district, and 91C, labor relations or other employee relations. Moved by Director Sparrow, second by Director Coots. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.